Yes, we're starting off Cup. That's so big of a deal here today, Eric. I am so thrilled that we're finally back. It's been far too long for Challengers Uprising. We've all been waiting. Long have we waited. Cup activated. We're finally here with the first game of Challengers Uprising Season 2. And yeah, just like you mentioned, some really sick teams coming out in Game 1.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup to see. You know, Revival, we do have a lot fresh in our memory from what happened yesterday. They did make it to the big league finals, and they did try to put on the best performance they could. They got some upsets through the bracket, but now they are here. They got 3-0'd, unfortunately, now starting up this matchup against Cloud9 Amateur, who hasn't exactly had the most smoothest of transitions over to amateur, but it's starting to work out for them as they have replaced their support with Breezy.
Yeah, I definitely say so. Breezy coming into this team is a really big deal, and we're already seeing at least a couple of these champions being slotted toward him for the bans. The Seraphine and the Pantheon can be slotted to that support pool. Speaking of the Bard and the Kazakhs respect bans coming through for Cloud9 Amateur, really liking those, but the off-the-wall jungle picks are already starting with the first one for Revival, Mundo Instalock.
Mundo insta-locked and Kaisa grabbed as well. This is something we had a discussion about, Smax, about Kaisa being very contested between these two ADCs. It's going to be Scooped, who absolutely loves this champion, to be able to lock that in, as well as Callista and Thresh getting locked in on the other side of the rift on Cloud9 Amateur.
Yeah, rather creative answer coming through for that right away as a response to the Kaisa. Callista and Udyr as champions that do really need to move around quite a bit. So Thresh is a champion that greatly benefits them with the Dark Passage Lantern, but it is still a little bit tough to deal with when you have the Mundo throwing cleavers at you left, right, and center for Callista, because getting slowed on that champion does not feel good. Nautilus coming through is another set of slows for that bot lane. We have both bot lanes and jungles already locked.
The bot lane's jungle's locked in, as you said, waiting for those counter picks. Talked about it before. Saber, he loves to save the counter pick for Sudsy. I don't know why I said Saber. Sudsy loves to save the counter pick for the second round coming in, as the bans do go through. Azir, NTF taken off the map, going after that mid lane pool will be both of these teams.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we're very likely to see Sudsy save his pick for last, as Revival actually do ban away the Jax, so this potentially signals that we're going to be seeing a Camille lock-in from Revival, or something along those lines that you don't want to be picked against the Jax to bolster that side lane threat. We definitely do expect that Scoop will be picking this champion right now. Maybe a Camille, maybe something like the Shen as well. Oh, it is in fact the Volibear, so another one of those auto-attacking bruiser-style champions in that top lane.
Yeah, Concept of X, he does like the Volibear. Does play quite a bit in ranked. I believe we've seen it a little bit in big, so it is going to come out of Concept of X. Now the response, waiting for Cloud9 Amateur. Saving that counter pick, of course, is Revival for the mid lane.
He's got a very deep champion pool, as is true of both of these mid laners. We've been seeing the Nocturne come out recently from the big league finals, and we've been seeing a lot of other creative things come out from that too. But speaking of mid lane creativity, Rumble comes on in for Captain Shrimps, one of his classic champions that he likes to pick. He likes going for these melee style mage champions that he can roam around a lot on, as was highlighted by the Analyst Desk earlier in the show.
One more pick to go. Revival waiting to lock in that mid lane pick. It's going to be the Nico locked in for Sudsy, and a little bit surprised there. I mean, we've been seeing him go with more and more of the casters, of course, the Nivea and Syndra stuff that Sudsy has locked in the past, but he has been swaying a little bit more towards like Yone and a lot more of the more aggressive melee mid laners, but this time instead going to be happy going with the Nico and getting some of that team fight prowess.
Yeah, and this is a mid lane matchup that we would not be seeing in any other series, I think, here at Desert. Only Captain Shrimps and Sudsy could come up with these wacky technologies of the Rumble and the Nico. Nico is a champion that is very potent in lane and in team fights with that Pop Blossom as well, but you typically don't see her all that much because there are other champions that do what she does. At least one aspect of what she is very skilled at, a little bit better than her. Like you mentioned, the Anivia is very good in that lane and has a lot of safe wave clear. Nico, not quite the same zone control as something like a Glacial Storm, but does have a lot of crowd control that can be used to set up for these ganks, and that's exactly what something like a Dr. Mundo and a Kaisa eventually in the team fights really likes having on their team.
I mean, I know you're loving the mention of that Dr. Mundo. I want to look more at the jungle matchup. Of course, we do have Exio on the Udyr, who has been more of that kind of push the momentum type jungler. He does go for the Graves, Lilia, Nidalee. A lot of power farmers get that early aggression going on. Instead, this time, the Udyr kind of still going around that route. We might see something a little bit different from Exio this time.
Yeah, we haven't seen him on this Udyr all that much recently. Of course, it's been a week since we've seen Cloud9 Amateur play an official match. They did have the entirety of the big league playoffs off, for better or for worse. It did mean that they got less points, but they got some time to prep. And it seems like they've adapted a little bit as far as the jungle meta is concerned with that Udyr coming through. And it is a very powerful champion. A lot of the other champions coming through from the jungle have been knocked down a peg. I'm talking Olaf, I'm talking Pantheon. These champions heavily affected in the live patch, and that is the patch that we're on. You can see at the top of the screen, we are on 11.3 for this game. So going back to that Udyr, going to be pretty big for Exio to come through and maybe give his team some early game priority, as Kalista and Thresh really like having.
I mean, we hyped up the jungle, we hyped up the mid lane. We got to talk a little bit more about the bot lane, because that is where the power of Cloud9 Amateur tends to lie. Captain Shrimp's Exio, they love to affect that bot lane and try and get Weeksy going as best as he can. He's a high KDA player. He's one of the players to watch when it comes to Cloud9 Amateur. So it's going to be interesting to see what can come from the bot lane of both of these squads.
And what better champion to watch the player to watch on than Kalista, this champion that is bouncing around all the time. Lots of mechanical prowess can be shown by it. And I am super thrilled to be seeing this. This is a champion that we are seeing a lot of AD carries shy away from, but can still function very well as this hyper early game focused champion that can scale up into that mid game with the objective control, with her rend stacks piling on.
Delay is. Oh, that's. Oh, that's.
I love to see when they go for those early invades.
You gotta be careful. You don't know which Nautilus is going to throw a hook at you. As we see, there are two of them coming on the Rift. One of them, of course, being Sudsy on the Nico. And if you do see two of them, then it's pretty clear to see which one you've got. As now there are two Volibears. This is hopefully not going to get too confusing for us on the caster desk here.
That being said, though, taking a little bit of time spotting out the invade. Captain Shrimps will get a deep ward over towards that blue side, so and the red side as well. So going to be able to spot out where the starting point will be for this Mundo.
It does look like it means that Wixie actually gets his way of this bot lane right away on this Kalista, so he can abuse that range matchup, the early damage from the Ren stacks. He's got Hela Blades as well, so going to be dealing extra burst damage with that. And we do see that the ward is swept away by Cloud9 Amateur, but it still signals where Exio is going to be starting. I want to look at this bot lane, though, as they do have brush control. They're just going to reveal themselves anyway, so they get the early minion push, though.
Just holding this wave should be a slow start to this game. You know, you do have the Mundo starting on that red side, going for that top side clear. A lot of aggression and a push coming in from Concept of X. Trying to find that early on aggression onto the GP. You don't want to let him scale. You don't want to let him get towards those late stages. Especially if you're able to... Especially if you're able to get those shoves in and get those early backs, you can always stay on that item advantage. It's very easy for Volibear to find that early.
And against Gangplank, you really don't want to give any leeway there, because he can just bully you out with the parlay shots over and over and over again, especially with this Grasp of the Undying. So really like the concept is pushing that forward. Seems like Cyber is skipping out on those Raptors and going straight for the bottom side clear. So letting Concept of X just kind of chill out in that top lane. He does get an early recall off. He's already used both of his health potions, but does now have boots. Meanwhile, bot lane, some hooks traded away.
Yeah, looking to find the death sentence. Will not land onto Scoop. Going to go wide, unfortunately. But getting a lot of damage on the Scoop and trying to punish this Kai'Sa early. It is a very, very favored pick for Scoop. So taking that off the map would be a great advantage for Cloud9 Amateur. Taking that off.
And this is the advantage that you hope to get when you do lock in Kalista and Thresh alongside it as well, where you do have this really large threat range in the bot lane. This is something that isn't necessarily true of all AD carries. Usually that is reserved for something like a Caitlyn, but Caitlyn is hyper fixated on specifically that lane, and you have to get her out of that as soon as possible so you can start sieging away. And it does look like Wixie also wants to get out of the lane a little bit soon as there's a scuffle.
Yeah, a little bit of bot lane priority coming in, but the flash over the wall going after XU is able to take the Lantern, play back in. Sudsy will be first blood fed over to Wixie. Now Saber's following low. Breezy will be able to take him down, and this is becoming disaster for Revival. Wixie over the wall will hop in and find a second kill. 3-0. Cloud9 Amateur starting off well.
Disaster is right for Revival there, Desrex. They flash in with both of their carries, the mid lane and the bot lane here, Sudsy and Scoop, trying to find the extra damage to get that first blood, but they put themselves in a very precarious situation. XU is there to respond alongside Captain Trimps. It's a proper 4-on-4 just at 4 minutes into the game, and it seems like Cloud9 Amateur with their early game champions are just way easier to execute once we do get into this, and we do see the replay as well. We're going to be seeing both of those members here for Revival flash over this wall and try to get into this kill. Look at Sudsy here. He flashes to try to get the root. Here comes Scoop, but they gets body blocked by XU right there.
Yeah, absolutely body blocked. And you got to question why Revival wanted to go for this. I mean, you had to flash over the wall, and this is just Cloud9 Amateur's game right there. They were able to take that team fight so easily, and a lot of that was off that early bot lane priority that both Wixie and Breezy were able to get.
Yeah, and you're right, it is a team fight at 4 minutes, which just signals to us how chaotic this series is going to be, as it looks like it's going to continue up in the top lane right away.
Going right after Speedo, who is far from home, gets a lot of damage on the Concept of X. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Breezy looking to get that play onto Sudsy. They're trying to play this out very carefully. They will find the death sentence, and another kill goes over to Cloud9 Amateur.
And no flash on Sudsy means it's a very safe and easy play for Breezy to come through. And speaking of Breezy, we saw in the big group stage that Breezy actually had the highest kill participation of all supports and the second highest KP in the entire league, only topped by one player. And that's at 75%. Not to mention the Cloud9 Amateur actually played the most games of anyone in the big league group stage. So Breezy knows when to get these kills. He's looking for even more.
I mean, this is the hyped up shot caller that Cloud9 Amateur has been looking for as he finds another death sentence. Wixie will pick up kill number 3. 5 minutes early into this game, it's already looking beautiful for Cloud9 Amateur.
Yeah, we're seeing why he has this ridiculously high kill participation stat on this support. Breezy going for all of these plays in the early game, ready to respond to any sort of wacky play that Revival goes for. And we have already seen a few of them, right? We saw that flash forward from Sudsy, from Scoop. Not only were they punished immediately by that play by getting 3 deaths for Revival, they're continuing to be punished because they can't go for any of these plays on their own. And whenever Breezy goes and lands a hook anywhere, you no longer have flash. You are so vulnerable to all of these plays, and it's still cascading on forward.
So what I'm looking at for Revival is over towards this top side with Concept of X to trying to get some damage onto Speedo. You know, eventually this is going to start to wear down more and more. The harassment's going to get there. Speedo's going to find more itemization. But Concept of X is getting these early shoves. Trying to set up something for Cyber could be a way back in, at least to get something for Revival up on this top side.
Yeah, perhaps if he gets that nice timer on the bot lane push that can go for this Rift Herald, because it definitely feels like that would be Revival's easy access to getting their gold lead back on track. I say easy, but it's really not going to be easy, as it's still 5-0, and they are still down almost 3,000 gold. But if there's any way that they will be able to do it soon, it will be through that Rift Herald. So let's look and see if Revival can actually make a play for that objective and start getting these turret plates for themselves.
And it's still definitely going to be a pain as well. If you're looking over at Cloud9 Amateur, mid lane and bot lane both have heavy priority towards Cloud9 Amateur. They will always have prio on those Drakes. The only place they don't have prio is what we talked about earlier, which is top, but that still leaves Sudsy to be able to roam up and try and deal with any Rift Herald takes that Cloud9 Amateur might throw their way.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, the window of punish onto a gangplank is very, very small, and Cyber has yet to really make an impact in that top lane, let alone anywhere. But when you look up there, we're seeing that Speedo is already up a ton of CS, at least an entire wave. He is going to be making it back up to that top lane. Doesn't have teleport, but he has the cannon barrage. Although, it seems like they may have actually found that window. We see that Cyber is starting up on this Rift Herald. They do have this rotation. This is the proper punish that we were hoping to see from Revival.
Yeah, standing 5 strong onto this Rift Herald. 4 members are going to respond from Cloud9 Amateur. Are they going to go for the engage, though? It would be a 4v5. The hook comes in. It's going to find it onto support. Out comes the Pop Blossom, only landing onto 2. And Cloud9 Amateur, they don't care about the numbers. They don't care about the disadvantage. What they care about is the kills, and the cleanup crew is here as they pick up 2 unanswered. Revival, Rift Herald.
That Rift Herald is gonna have to be a big one for Revival if they're going to make up for the kills that they just lost, and the priority in the mid lane that we're seeing here too. Wixie's able to take a couple of plates in that one in response. Concept can go for some more trades in this top lane, but still it's gonna be difficult for him to actually take him down, or is it?
Ooh, come on and slam. Concept of X looking for the kill.
Ooh.
Flashes forward. Will be able to grab Speedo underneath the tower, but the teleport is here. Backup has arrived in the form of Captain Shrimps. It's going to be a long way out for Concept of X, who's going deeper and deeper behind enemy lines. Will walk into the Bear. Bear versus Bear. No, now it's Tiger. Now it's Phoenix. XU picks up the kill on Concept.
Some bear-on-bear action at the end of that, and I spoke too soon about Concept of X. I apologize for doubting. Straits do look rather dire for Revival, but still finding that return kill in the top lane is going to feel really good for Volibear. I'm curious to know what he's actually building. He's gone for the cooldown reduction boots to maybe get some more trading going, and it clearly is working. He gets the solo kill onto Speedo, but without the rest of his team really putting in the work, it is still attacking this scaling gangplank, and the rest of the squad can go for a lot of punishment around the map. Like I was talking about earlier. Oh wait, look at this.
Flash forward, Killer Instinct goes out. Scooped is going to pick up this one quite easily. Speedo goes down and doesn't have a teleport, just barely got back to lane. That's going to be a huge punish. Revival able to find something on the map.
Yeah, Revival may have actually found a leak in the Cloud9 boat right now. Otherwise, smooth sailing. Speedo is kind of bleeding over a couple of these kills over, but Concept might be doing the same.
Again, the bear on bear, but here is the Flay, and here is Wixie as well. The bear is going to fall. Concept of X going down to XU in round number 2 of their little battle.
Ooh, and we're seeing now the consequences of dying around that neutral objective. For Speedo, he doesn't actually have too many consequences for dying up there other than just giving over some gold, but the fact that Concept has gone for the split map where he is weak side on the bottom lane and the dragon is up does mean that they lose priority over that objective there. Now, a couple of those dragons down, but you get first turret in the top lane, so that's quite a nice amount of gold.
A lot of gold, and Scoop was there to pick it up. Again, Scoop very, very prominent on this Kai'Sa. Hasn't fallen just yet. Is falling behind in CS about 20 to his lane opponent Wixie, but still in the game nonetheless and still on a comfort champion.
The experience game is no slouch either for Wixie. He was able to take a couple of those waves by his lonesome in that bottom lane because of the kill on the Concept of X. Nobody there to respond to Wixie. And they get the dragon, they get some nice waves under Wixie's belt. They do retain control of that gold lead because of all of the crazy kills and crazy action that we saw in the early game, even though that first turret was taken by Revival. But I do really appreciate the Revival, even though the game has been very chaotic and very disadvantageous for them, they are still finding responses.
Yeah, it's mostly been in this top side, as the top side now headed over to the bot lane. It's going to be Concept of X making a roam through the jungle of Cloud9 Amateur. And so is Plux as he heads over to get some vision, establish as much of it as possible towards his Drake side area. We still got 3 minutes, 40 seconds before Drake does drop, but what they want to drop is Speedo. Take that blast plant over the wall. Looking to try and find the top laner of Cloud9 Amateur. They're going to get nothing, and so much invested. 5 members invested to come up empty-handed.
Yeah, and this time Speedo does sniff it out. As you mentioned, they do walk away empty-handed as far as the kills go. It's seeming like a successful map split again for Cloud9 Amateur. Nobody on this top side. Wixie again gets solo experience, solo plates, solo minion gold. Everything he could ever want in his Kalista. He's already got his mythic item, the newly buffed Immortal Shield Bow on top of it. Look at, he's still hitting these plates for free. They haven't yet responded at all.
Just wailing away, collecting 160, 160, 160, more and more spears onto this tower. Just a slither of health remains. Even in the bot side, Scoop trying to do the same thing. Cannon Barrage to answer it and clear out the minion wave. So Wixie is getting the better of these, even though Scoop's on his own as well.
And Scoop, speaking of, just hit level 8, whereas Wixie is level 9, and he has been for a few seconds as well. So the experience lead is an entire level for Wixie in this game because of that. And on this Kalista, where the base stats do matter a lot for this champion, you do need all the attack speed you can get. It does mean that you can hop around more. That matters a ton for this champion here for Wixie. He's already got those 4 kills, and he's looking to get some more as they are bringing them down to where Scooped and Plux are. They want some blood to cap off their early game turret plating destruction.
Interesting situation here. Revival getting control of this bot side, putting a lot of vision over there. You still have 2 minutes before that Mountain Drake does spawn. The channel comes out with the Hex Flash, but nope. Only 4 shenanigans, just trying to scare Breezy away and still establish that map control that Revival are desperately trying to cling on to.
Plux, no vision of everyone else, does not want to just Hex Flash over into the Thresh, who has Flash and everything available. Although, this one he might be more keen on. Nah, he's not.
Go for it. Ah, come on. Why not? You gotta be the hero. Someone's got to make it engage. Speaking of someone, Cyber over here, looking to find Captain Shrimps. They're actually gonna get it. Out comes the hook, and here comes the lockdown. The pain is here. Out comes the equalizer as well, but the lantern, so clean. Breezy frees Captain Shrimps.
Oh, that was very close to being a really big shutdown onto Captain Shrimps, which would have been an apt punishment for this Rift Herald. The plates are down across all turrets right now, so this second Rift Herald doesn't mean too much. The goal they would have gotten off Captain Shrimps actually would have been able to match that, but can't quite find it. Dark Passage, pretty broken. If I'm being completely honest, it's the reason that Thresh has been relevant since he was released, so excellent use of that spell by Breezy.
There is one thing to keep in mind, though. Dragon is spawning in the next 45 seconds, but keeping a close tab on that. Because of that engagement, it did force Captain Shrimps to use his equalizer defensively as a response to that 2-man gang. So it will not be available for this next Dragon fight if Revival were to go for it, if Cloud9 Amateur are to go for it.
No equalizer does spell some bad news for Cloud9. That is their primary team fighting tool. The rest of their kit is very built around single target damage, and Wixie does not yet have his Ruinous Hurricane, not even building it yet, so very focused on dealing that single target damage as well. Dredge line.
To find the hook. XU will get away. Those lanterns have been so clean. Breezy standing in the right spot, right time to respond to any engagement that Revival have, but Revival, all that vision they were establishing, now getting good priority on this Drake.
This is a pretty big deal to try to stop the scaling here from Cloud9 Amateur in the Drake stacking. I believe they already have 2 of those, as the Rift Herald does get a second charge, so they do miss out heavily on this mid lane priority and potentially this teamfight positioning.
Engagement onto Plux. Plux will throw him back in, and now the Pop Blossom goes off. It's going to land onto 2 in the back line. Wixie able to find 1, will claim Sudsy. Now Breezy trying to escape too far behind enemy lines once again. Able to get the blast planet, barely survive over the wall, but the same can't be said for Captain Shrimps as he will fall. That's 2 down for Cloud9 Amateur, only losing Plux in the response. But Breezy might follow as well, make it the 3rd. 1 more cleaver goes out, does not land. The lantern is there, and so is the shield, but the cleavers so close. Breezy will be able to escape.
Just barely too fast with those boots of swiftness on the Thresh to make it out, but as you mentioned, his Kalista and Rumble not as lucky. We see that all of Revival are collapsing up here in this corridor because they did have the position on the Dragon. They're collapsing on multiple fronts here too. Wixie actually uses his ultimate very, very early to get that knockup on the Plux. They do kill him, but look at the top crossing on Sudsy right now. They had that extra positioning, they had that extra flank. position too, and this is where Scoop on this Kai'Sa can really shine. He does get into these assassination potential moments on this Kai'Sa and does clean up the rest of that fight. Oh, I actually didn't see that. Cyber flashes to try to kill Breezy too. That's a really big deal.
Big deal that he wasn't able to get it on top of that. Those cleavers were so close, just barely scratching his behind, but Breezy will be able to get away, and Cloud9 Amateur, they're starting to show some cracks. You can see Revival are clawing their way back into this game.
I still am holding out faith for Revival. As you mentioned, they can potentially get back into this one. They have not yet stemmed the gold lead gap right now, as that one is still about 3,000, as it has been the entire game. Even though they did win that fight, even though they did get this dragon, still in a true 5-on-5 where there isn't a very scattered and not very close clump together here for Cloud9 Amateur. I'm curious to see if they can actually win that kind of fight also.
Be very spread out here, looking for the skirmish as Cloud9 Amateur. Low turret in the mid lane, that second tier. Death Sentence will not land. Sudsy waiting on the wings. Battle lines are drawn, but no one willing to cross them just yet. Just trying to stay neutral. Revival is finding their way back in, and Cloud9 Amateur have to respect it.
In times like this, it's good to take a look at the scaling of each team. And there are two chief offenders of the scaling problem. There's Gangplank and there's Kai'Sa. Gangplank has sort of been left to his own devices here for Speedo, off in the side lane for most of this game. He's been punished a couple of times, but is still farming up rather well. He does have a nice sizable advantage over Concept. Same cannot be said for Scoop, though. He hasn't died like Speedo has, but he is still struggling to stem that lead that Wixie actually has and sort of climb that gold lead ladder here. So still looking at Scoop as maybe he's going to have some more impact in the fights, but he's going to have to do so at a deficit.
Concept of X caught out. Bear stance, slapping the bear. Now going into Tiger. Those autos are coming through. He's right-clicking so hard, but it's not enough to take down Concept of X. It gets under the tower.
XU is faster than Concept. It seems like at the moment Concept is a little too slippery even still. Nice use of the Unstoppable to dodge out of the bear slap as well. Not going to get stunned up by that because of the ult. So nice denial of that play onto him. He's going to recall and come back to his post, but does mean that Speedo gets another free way in this bot lane, takes down that turret, and looks like Cloud and Amateur are going to do the same in mid also.
Able to take down that mid lane tower, trying to find Scoop as well, but not able to claim just that. Still having control over this map is Cloud9 Amateur as they start to adjust over towards the bot side of the map where Concept of X is. Still got the Drake spawning in the next 50 seconds. So Cloud9 Amateur would love to grab that and set them up for Soul Point, but Concept of X might be caught out here. Breezy waiting for that Death Sentence. Here comes the play, and here comes the box, but the Death Sentence will not find its mark. Concept of X still surviving to see another day.
Nice flash from Concept, no flash and no ulti for the dragon fight. Could spell disaster for Revival, though. They do have positioning advantage over it, and it is spawning in 25 seconds, so they have to hold that for quite some time. Wixie coming back onto the map. They were able to get the first one, but the third dragon, excuse me, but Cloud9 Amateur had some bigger fish to fry. They took 2 turrets in the meantime. This time they don't have a distraction.
Ooh, there's the equalizer starting to engage. Pop Blossom going to be used as XU goes deep onto that backline, but Wixie is able to delete Plux. All meanwhile Scooped looking to run away here as Breezy will find his way over that wall. Another kill gets picked up. Revival losing 2, and this is going to mean Baron over towards Cloud9 Amateur.
Yeah, Cloud9 don't even care about the dragon at this time. They're going straight for the moneymaker for the Baron so he can take down the rest of those turrets. But this is the kind of fight that I was talking about for Cloud9. They're all on the same page. They're not distracted by going for the turret, and they can go for these assassinations like I was talking about. But Pop Blossom only landing onto 1 this time around. Breezy hops over that wall to try to find anything else, but they don't even need it. They've already killed 2. There's the Baron for them as well, and it's again a punishment for Concept too. He doesn't have his ultimate, he doesn't have his flash for that fight. They attack his lane twice in a row before that Drake does spawn. It does give Cloud9 Amateur a huge advantage in the frontline department.
And I've been questioning this Mundo pick more and more the deeper we go into it. Only picking up 1 kill, died very early on to the game. It has not been effective in this game so far. It hasn't been able to bring any control where, as you see, Cloud9 Amateur, they can just freely roam these team fights, go from angle to angle. There's nothing to really lock them down, especially when you have a Mundo. What's Cleaver really going to do?
Right, and we do know that Cyber does have these sort of pocket picks that he likes to pull out as the reason the Kha'Zix was the first ban of this entire game. But Mundo and Kha'Zix and these pocket picks work the best when you do have them as responses to specific things, which is not what Revival did at all. They first picked this Mundo, and we're seeing that the draft here for Cloud9 Amateur just isn't as susceptible as you would like to see to that Mundo because they did have 4 response picks to it. They can draft all this sustained damage that can shut down what Mundo likes to do, and they can work around that also, as the rest of this team isn't necessarily built incredibly well for Mundo, but it's not going to stop them from trying.
There comes that Mundo engaged, but the dredge line is there. They're able to find a pick, and 1 kill goes through. Revival getting the first one of this team fight, but Cloud9 Amateur have a response. XU will destroy Scoop, and they're going for the rest of the members. Speedo now on the run, will be able to escape. Body still hitting the floor. It's going to be Revival finding a response, but there it is. Captain Shrimps with the triple kill. Sudsy fighting tooth and nail for his base, able to get under the tower and survive, but the rest of his team, 3 of them, not able to make it as Cloud9 Amateur now in the base of Revival.
I saw a pentakill angle, Destrux. I was waiting with bated breath to see if they would do it, but they don't need to. A triple kill will suffice for Captain Shrimps. They take that inhibitor, they get all those kills that they need to continue wrapping out this game, and this is all at the same time. Cloud9 Amateur actually do get caught out by this as well. They do get flanked, they get teleported on, they get Nautilus ulted, and it starts out disastrous for them, but they're able to bounce back. Look at the barrel damage from Speedo in this fight. The cannon barrage and the barrels coming through and just chunking out so many members for then Captain Shrimps to clean this up. I'd be curious to know just how much damage Speedo did in this one with just a couple of those abilities, but it definitely stuck, it definitely landed, and it feels like Cloud9 Amateur are going to take this all the way to game 2 with a victory.
Yeah, they're feeling great right now, able to get control of this game with an 8K gold lead. Saw they got the Baron play earlier. They still don't have a setup for that Mountain Soul, but you don't really care when you have a gold lead this strong and a GP that is scaling this monstrous, as well as Captain Shrimps, who is carrying this mid game.
Yeah, they are just so astronomically ahead right now for Cloud9 Amateur. Any even fight that they take will end up the same way that we saw it. And that fight wasn't even at the beginning either. They did have a disadvantage right now, as we're seeing some ultimates trade in that top lane. Not going to really be any consequence for that one, other than just not having the ultimates for later. But Captain Shrimps is much happier about that one, as Equalizer does have a significantly shorter cooldown than the Stormbreaker of concept here. So going to be a favorable trade again for Cloud9 Amateur, just trying to go for this pressure. And pressure they will in this bottom lane as well.
And see there, XU is just being a menace.
Yeah.
Trying his best to make them waste whatever skills they can and just pop that bear stance, be able to hop, skip, jump away, and make Revival hate their lives as they try and defend against these sieges. But Wixie still continuing, clearing these waves, and not much of a response to come out of Revival when you have this much defense. When you have someone who's just great at peeling, as Breezy is.
Yeah, and we mentioned the sort of weaknesses of this Neeko when compared to her her counterparts in League of Legends, something like the Anivia that we've seen Sudsy pull out, where he does have this crazy wave clear that is so difficult to break through. Neeko doesn't really have that. She's a little bit stronger in the teamfight department, which we might be seeing another one of.
Cyber getting got out. Weeksy will be there, and I mean, it's a Callista. You can get as tanky as you want. She will eventually tear through that, and that is what happens. Weeksy grabbing another kill. Kill number 7, I might add on to that. He's really been racking these up.
Yeah, Neeko and this Mundo, we've been talking about it for a bit. These champions are very creative, and they can throw some of these teams off their rhythm, but Cloud9 Amateur have had an entire week to prep for Revival. They've got a lot of tape throughout the playoffs of Big League to go over, and it seems like they were very ready for this, and maybe even surprised that Cyber was locking this champion in so early in the draft because they were ready for this. And we're now seeing that they are going to take themselves to that Dragon Soul point with the Mountain. They do it in response for a turret in the top lane for Concept of X, as we did see in that little picture-by-picture in the bottom left. Shout out to our observers. But Yeah, the scaling is now still unlocked for Cloud9 Amateur. They still have this Gangplank who now has, again, the newly buffed shield bow for him. I'm very excited to see how that one does pan out. Looks like he's going for an Infinity Edge too. But yeah, these team fights are really not close when we do see these in the late game.
Not at all. And, you know, you were talking about it a little bit with the Nico and Mundo picks. A lot of times you see amateur teams take these, like, very, very comfort picks and do so well with them. And then against certain matchups, they get annihilated. And a lot of it is because in amateur, teams really just don't know how to respond to these pocket picks. They don't know how to respond to these comfort picks. But once they do, you get situations like this, what you're seeing with Cyber and Sudsy, who are struggling to find their footing in this game. And if to find their footing, Breezy's going to find his with a death sentence. Cyber gets annihilated. And right now, this is going tit for tat as out comes the Pop Blossom. It's going to land onto 3. XU trying his best to be as disruptive as possible as another death sentence goes out on the concept of X, who's able to back off. A 1-for-1 trade thus far. Plux tries to find the hook. Will land it onto a minion. It gets kill. Cloud9 Amateur are tearing apart Revival. A response comes in, but it's a double going over to Speedo, and Sudsy and Scooped forced to run into their base, get away from the threat that is Speedo and Captain Shrimps.
It's another team fight win for Cloud9 Amateur. It doesn't look like it's going to be the game end. They're just going to go for the Baron. But watch how this team fight plays out. Wixie is the first member to die here for Cloud9 Amateur. Of course, it starts out with this hook onto Cyber. They take him down very, very quickly with all the crowd control down onto Wixie. Means that he is easy pickings for the rest of Revival. But they go back to their line of scrimmage so quickly for Cloud9. Look at how they position back into this club. They go back to their roots. They go under this turret so they can reform an attack. They continue this team fight for the rest of it as well, and I really like this. Even though their AD carry and their big damage dealer does get taken out right away, they can still reform as a team and take this team fight win. I really like this response from Cloud9.
Looking at some silver linings for Revival, though, Scooped is a player I was watching that entire team fight. His positioning has been quite beautiful, and it's one of the reasons why Revival are still in this game. You saw he flashed away from the Pop Blossom, was able to escape and get that kill on the back end of Sudsy, and it's just been beautiful positioning. He's using his resources the right way as Cloud9 Amateur trying very desperately to find engage. It's going to be Revival who forced it instead, going on to XU, taking a lot of damage, but the Lantern will be able to get into safety. Speedo will now put down that cannon barrage to try and disrupt. Pop Blossom goes out. It will find a kill, and now Revival are finding their footing. They're able to claim 3 members of Cloud9 Amateur, and now they're setting their sights on that Baron.
Oh, their health bars are blinking here, Deserux. They're so close to dead on the side of Revival, and it seems like Cloud9 Amateur are actually getting punished for giving over those Mountain Dragons. Maybe if they didn't give those over, they actually would have been able to kill those members and take that fight. Instead, they lose the fight, they lose the Baron, they do get an inhibitor in response, but look at this flank.
They might lose much more. Wixie gets a little bit of spears in, but Scoop returns it as well. Plux will not be able to get there in time, but we got to take a look at a replay of what started this all.
Oh, and Breezy lands a hook onto the Nico clone. They do use Equalizer on just about nothing because of the use of those item actives, keep themselves alive for Revival. Now, they're just grouped up for the rest of this attack. Nice flash dredge line from Plux gets it all started off. And the single target damage here for Revival, they can just use it onto every single member. Look at the flank concept. And then all the crowd control continues being layered on. And Plux and Sudsy survive the onslaught as well. It's so close. And you have to remember too that Revival are so heavily down in this team fight. They're still finding their angle. This is so impressive in this late game for Revival that they're still finding these.
And Smacks, we saw the equalizer at the start. Imagine if they actually had that equalizer for the team fight. It would have been Cloud9 Amateur's fight, but knowing better is Revival. That's why they really pushed that engage for that skirmish. And now another line of scrimmage drawn. Sudsy looking to go forward with the clone, trying to bait out whatever resources he can as Plux Try to set up the dredge line. TP is going to come out on the flank. It will be Concept of X. He's going to jump on in and go right after Wixie. Scoop picks up one onto XU. And Revival, full forward momentum. Pop Blossom goes off. They're going to pick up 4 members, and it's going to be easy breezy, beautiful. Scoop taking out a triple kill. A beautiful display from Revival as they're able to rise from the ashes and start taking down the structures, the base of Cloud9 Amateur.
How did they do this, Eric? I don't know. Revival, they find that flank from Concept. This might be the end of the game. It was a 5-for-0 ace. They're still down in gold, even after they're taking all these structures. They're going to just win the game off of one fight in the late game. I can't believe this, Revival. What a comeback.
Are you kidding me? Revival live up to the name. They pull off just the most immaculate upset after being that far behind, Smacks.
Okay, look at the flank from Concept right to the back line. Revival had to walk through Equalizer to even get to this fight, and they still win it. Their front line is so beefed up. I'm sorry for doubting the Mundo in the early game. I'm so sorry, Cyber. Please forgive me. You are a genius, and I am just a charlatan. This Mundo is the best pick in the world, I guess. This is incredible stuff in the late game for Revival.
You know, Smacks,